XPeng opens the R&D in Europe, in Munich, and now the local production also in Austria. So guys, as I told you on the videos related to the IAA Munich, Mobility Munich, XPeng is in fact coming to Europe. So they did arrive to Europe to sell their cars, but now they want to be more present locally to reach out to their customers here in Europe. And they have announced in the press conference that they were opening an R&D center in Munich, and it is already in functions. And also now it came to the news that the first local production in Austria is starting. These are great news because we can imagine why they are doing that. So for instance, the R&D center in Munich is to be closer to the customers in Europe, to get more feedback from them and react faster, and also to create a branch because we do drive differently than in China. So I do believe that it's necessary to have something here, at least to get the information and provide also information to the European market. And of course, as you can imagine, the local production will solve a couple of things related to tariffs and also the costs. And not only that, but also to have probably a supply chain closer to the European market for the parts that are needed to supply. So today on this video, I will just go through these news together with you guys, reacting to them and at least giving you my opinion on what we can expect from those. So guys, as you can see here, so this was news coming on September 9th. This was the first news that came out on the Munich R&D Center, and they were announced by the CEO of XPeng on the IAA Mobility Fair on the press conference in the morning of the day 9. And he did in fact set and centered on the philosophy, as you can say here, in Europe with Europe. So basically the message that XPeng tried to push was that they are in Europe, so they arrived to Europe to sell cars, but now they are with Europe, and with that they want to start being more local. And as you can see, so they announced this new R&D first European R&D center in Munich, Germany. And this is meant for them to be very close, so centered on the principle in Europe with Europe. The facility aims to uncover local user needs, accelerate technological innovation, and drive localization. So this is of course important because I do believe, as I told already in recent videos, that XPeng needs in fact to be local, needs to talk with local owners, local dealerships, to understand the pain points that we as owners do feel here in Europe. Because again, guys, building cars in China and driving cars in China is completely different than building them and deliver them in European markets. We do, as European, we do expect different types of materials, different types of behaviors from our cars, because it's just normal, it's cultural. Even inside Europe, we do drive differently from Portugal to Italy to Dutch countries. We do drive differently. So it's not easy to understand the European way of drive, way of think in the road. And this is something that if you are very far away in China, for instance, it's very difficult to adjust to this mentality and to address and fine-tune the software to be more European, let's call it like that. So this is very important, not only to build this R&D. I don't know what are going to be their tasks inside of this R&D, because I do believe that it will be more like a front office. It will be more something like a barrier between the teams that are then in fact developing the software in China. But it will be something like they are going to collect information from the European market, the European owners, and proceed and translate that to China so that the software can be developed. And then they can be the ones, because I know, because I talk with some of them, they are mainly from the people that I knew, they are Chinese, but they are living here already for 8-10 years. So they are already with knowledge of what it is to be an European. So I think this will be important to translate this European style to China, develop, and then bring again the software, test it, check if it is accurate with what we expect as Europeans, and then deliver them to our cars. Also, I know, because I talked with those engineers, some of them at least, that they are going to meet owners in different countries to understand their complaints and try again to translate that to new features or corrections, innovation, changes to the software in our cars. So I do believe that this is a big step for XPeng and for us owners to have this team here in Munich, so locally in Europe. Recently, I think it was yesterday, let me just go again to the message here. So it was September 15, so today, it was also announced that XPeng begins local production in Europe to mitigate high tariffs. So let's not jump already to the conclusions that the title of this news refer. But I think it's important to say that, in fact, tariffs is a problem currently because I don't know if you know this, but we have a base tariff of 10% on top of the cars coming from XPeng, and due to the fact that there was an initiative from European Union to understand if the manufacturers and brands were getting money from the government, then they were defining additional tariffs on top of those 10% for some of the brands. And in the case of XPeng, it's around 20%, something like that. So you are paying on top of the price that the car costs in China. You have still the transportation, insurance, all those costs that you need to put on top. And then you have the 10% base tariff, you have then the 20% additional tariff, and then you have the consumption taxes that in my case in Portugal is 23% on top of all that that is already there. And still, as in Portugal, for instance, we don't have XPeng directly represented, we have an importer. You need to consider all the costs that that importer has to create infrastructure here in Portugal, and also sales margin, insurance and transportation, 10% base tariff, 20% additional tariff on top of all the other costs. Then you have also homologation costs, you have the infrastructure costs in Europe, and then you have sales margin also on top of all of that, not mentioning VAT, that is the consumption tax that we have to pay. So you sum all of that and you will quickly understand that most of the money, that it's the difference between price in Europe towards China, it's almost double. Yes. So let's go first for the news. So news says that XPeng's first European production facility in Austria, where the first batch of G6 and G9s are rolled off the line. So it seems that they have already manufactured some cars. So they didn't announce that they will initiate the production. It seems that there are already cars coming out from this factory. So we don't have here information of what exactly is being produced, if it's the full car, or if they are importing still the components and then just assembling the car in Austria. So there is no real information on that. But then they say that the company first European localized production project has officially commenced at the Magna plant in Graz, Austria. You see here already some images of those manufacturing plants. They want, in fact, to start assembling the cars here. With these, they will probably avoid the tariffs of some of them. But it is still to be known what will be the real impact on customers. I would say that there are two things that are important. I would say that even if they are just assembling, they will have parts available. And if XPeng wants, they can create these also as a place for delivering then parts to the remaining Europe, instead of what we have now, that we need to wait for those parts to come from China. And what I mean with this is that existing owners can then expect less delivery times and better service in Europe because of this. I don't know if will be true, but I can imagine that this would be a good advantage for XPeng. The second topic is then the manufacturing and assembling and the price reduction because of the tariffs. But we need to also to consider that labor on these type of factories, it's not comparable with the labor costs in China. So the difference, and also as this is a partnership, XPeng will have to pay to Magna to build and assemble the cars. So it is still to be known if the real impact on the reduction of tariffs with the existing higher costs of assembling and labor in these factories will then benefit the users. Because if you start doing the math, if you take out 20%, and then you add up a little bit of manufacturing costs and assembling costs and partnership with Magna and stuff like that, maybe the difference is not that much. And we then can reach to the point saying that, are we going to have a 5% decrease on price, or are we going to see a 5% increase on sales margin than on the dealerships? Anyway, for XPeng itself, and now not thinking as an owner, it's good because XPeng will be local, XPeng will be then addressing the local markets. The costs then for logistics and stuff like that will be lower because it's much cheaper to send parts than to send full-blown cars because of insurance, the protection of the cars, etc. So for sure it will be better in terms of logistics for XPeng. They will get the same money because they sell probably at the point of overseas, so when the cars get out of China. And if the price reduction comes to the owners, then we will have a benefit to and an incentive to buy more cars. But if they don't bring that price reduction to owners, but in the market itself, the price level still is competitive compared with the competitors, so the other brands that have similar offerings, then you will have better sales margins to the people that are selling XPeng, and this makes them want to sell more. And this makes them making more marketing, making more initiatives. They will have more margin to play with campaigns, ads, offerings, etc. So I do believe that at the end we will benefit from that. XPeng will benefit from that, and if XPeng benefits, it will grow. And in principle, because this is more or less how organizations work, if they grow, we will have better services, better infrastructures, better local distributors. So I do believe that this is good. So guys, tell me, what do you think about these? Do you think these are good news for market, for XPeng, for European owners of the XPeng brand? Or do you think that this is not going to change anything in the near future? So let me know on the comments what you think. And of course, if you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe the channel, share it with your friends and family. And of course, if you do like my content, please consider on supporting the channel. And for me, thank you very much again for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye, guys.